We are back, Peanut Gallery. We have a lot of news to cover, and let's kick off with the CMLL thing.
Yeah, so CMLL, apparently a lot of their workers are having visa issues with working in the States.
Oh, and by the way, this is not CMLL's responsibility.
No,
this is AEW's responsibility to make sure that these visas are up to date.
Because they have to be done through the workplace of the States.
Right. So if there are American wrestlers going to Mexico to wrestle there,
then it's up to those authorities to make sure that their visas work.
Exactly.
And it looks like here 19 wrestlers, 19 CML stars are in danger of losing their work visas to work in the United States.
And here's the problem with that, is that hurts their reputation on coming back for any reason.
Right. It also hurts AEW's reputation because they're the ones who are responsible for the visas.
Making sure that they are up to code and up to date. So this is patently embarrassing. This is beyond embarrassing. And not only that, but I guess it was confirmed that the CMLL stipulation where no other Mexican wrestler can wrestle as long as there are CMLL guys wrestling. That's the
well, actually, that is proven to be false because Dave Meltzer falsely reported that.
Of course he fucking did.
But we covered that on a previous episode where Dave Meltzer did a string of unconfirmed reports and passing it off as news. I think that was like a month ago or something like that.
So anybody's like, oh, Wrestling Observer said it. You need to take that with an enormous grain of salt.
Oh, absolutely.
And then shove that thing up your ass because it's a bunch of fucking lies.
You have to look at multiple news sources. Only one news source is reporting on it, then you have a problem.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's talk about...
the racist!
There were 3 deaths of prominent wrestlers this week. So the first one, Ole Anderson, which I think was the most prominent of the 3 that had passed away.
This one, Virgil.
Yep. Well, we're going to talk about Virgil later on. And then we're going to talk about the last one later on as well. But I wanted to bring up Ole Anderson first because he was the most he was the most
publicized.
Yes.
So WWE put something out, TNA put something out, and AEW put something out about Ole, despite his past.
Right.
He does have a reputation for being A, a hard ass, and B, racist.
Yep.
But keep in mind, he was born in 1942. I'm sure the culture, people, look at the culture. You're not going to change an 80-blank-year-old man's mind because fluffy ducks.
But he was one of the original members of the Four Horsemen. Mm-hmm. So we had to, of course...
He was the 5th member of the Four Horsemen.
Pretty much.
That's what it was.
Right.
He was the 5th member of the Four Horsemen.
But he was in the Four Horsemen. But yes, he did pass away. And of course, there were 2 other deaths this week that we'll talk about later. But as you know, all wrestling deaths come in 3.
Why are we fucking bringing up Jay?
So... this is the Hall of Fame.
Oh, this is the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
No, this is the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's right.
So there were 3 members that were announced. This is a GCW promoted Hall of Fame ceremony. It is the Briscoes and, oh God, what's his name? Trent Acid. And Trent Acid is well known because he was in that one wrestling documentary about indie wrestlers.
Oh,
yeah.
Didn't he die? Isn't he dead?
Yes,
yeah, that's what I
thought. But he and the Briscoes are going to be in the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame hosted by GCW.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because Trent Acid, of course, being a part of that documentary, was also very noteworthy.
Right.
Then
here's Virgil.
So yes, Virgil also died this week. He was 61 years old, and he's very well known for misappropriating his age. So people thought that he was a little bit younger than he actually was.
Yep. He has a reputation for being a perpetual liar.
Yes.
And that has been patently obvious. And, we don't like to speak ill of the dead here and make pro wrestling majestic again because we have standards. But he does have that reputation. But also he is known for showing up to like every indie event known to mankind, and nobody is there for him.
Right.
I obviously never watched wrestling when Virgil was on top. He was okay.
Yeah, he never really got out of like the lower to upper mid card. Like he was always in the mid card. He's never like at the main eventer.
No, God no. And that's probably why my perception of him is not the best in the world.
Right. All right. So Ronda Rousey is going to be at WrestleCon this year.
That was kind of a weird one. I didn't expect that.
Well, because she has a new book that just came out. And so she will be signing autographs for that at that event.
She is a wrestler. She was a pro wrestler. All right. I think that's kind of cool, but those ticket prices are going to be jacked up to shit.
All right. So Billy Jack Haynes got charged with murdering his wife. This week.
I got more information about this. So he and his wife had a significant age difference.
Yes.
But she was living with dementia.
Mm.
And not only that, but he did have a multi-hour standoff with police after the shooting happened.
Yep.
And there was speculation that it could have been done on accident.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do something on accident and then have a standoff with fucking police.
Right.
So, fuck him in every way, shape, and form. I understand that being I'm going to assume he was the primary caretaker of his wife.
I would not know all the details. This just happened literally a few days ago.
Yep.
So
I'm sure taking care of somebody full time, presumably with dementia, is incredibly
can
difficult.
Be frustrating.
Yep. But at the same time, the solution is to not shoot your person.
Not
shoot your wife.
Partner. Yeah.
Generally not a good rule of thumb.
No.
And so who's this?
This is
Bashan.
This is Paul Butcher Bashan. This was just a few days ago.
Who's he related to within the Bashan family? Like with Luna, Mad Dog?
Yeah, so he is Mad Dog is his brother.
Okay.
And so they wrestled primarily in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
This was announced on Friday.
So this would be Luna Bashan's dad?
Yeah, I think so.
Jeez, man, Luna Bashan died like a lot.
So
earlier.
He was actually the adopted father of Luna.
Okay, so Luna was adopted into the Bashan family as a whole. I see. Okay.
But he had problems. He had multiple cancer diagnoses throughout his life. So he died at the age of, I believe, 86. So he lived a good long life.
Unlike Luna, who died has probably been like 10 years now, right?
But Paul Butcher Bashan.
All right, there we go.
Yep. So you know how everything falls in threes, right?
Yep.
Every single celebrity death always comes in groups of three. So we had 3 deaths this week.
Yep.
All right. So Josh Alexander came out with his response to his contract being extended.
Didn't he say it wasn't that big of a deal?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't as big of a deal as a lot of people said. He said that he would have liked to have gone to free agency, especially with the free agency being as hot of a market as it is right now. But he does not want to leave TNA. It's not because he wants to leave TNA, it's because he wanted to test the waters.
Right.
And see what his worth would be as a wrestler. Now, if TNA keeps him strong, he might be worth more of a wrestler going forward.
Well, especially now because he's going to be in a long-term program with Alex Hammerstone, who just signed with the company.
Yep.
That's going to be a net positive overall.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm happy about that. So mountain out of a molehill, not a big deal.
Right. Moving on, Shawn Spears comes back to NXT as Shawn Spears.
I did not even know he was out of AEW.
Until last week, I think.
Yeah, I was like, oh. I was watching NXT, I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
But he didn't come back as Ty Dillinger either. He came back as Shawn Spears.
And he's doing the whole chairman thing. So
he's doing his original gimmick, which is interesting because WWE's been doing this a lot more since Vince McMahon has left his power seat, is that a lot of these wrestlers who are a little more prominent, I think, in major American wrestling promotions have not had their names significantly changed.
Well, it's a double-edged sword because then we had Naomi, who sort of she was Trinity, but she was not on the indies and she wasn't signed to a big one,
right?
Like Shawn Spears was.
I think this is a deliberate action by WWE to
test the waters on
if these names stick a little bit more.
Well,
Obviously,
it's a lot easier because Shawn Spears' name, I believe, is Shawn Spears.
Right. And then Cody Rhodes, obviously.
His name is literally, he had name value already as Cody Rhodes.
And then Jade Cargill, her name is actually Jade Cargill.
Right.
So there is a precedent being set by retaining some of these wrestlers' first names, especially if they were on AEW.
I'm just shocked about Naomi that they did not, because her name is Trinity.
But I think she has more value as Naomi.
Probably.
And she wasn't on AEW.
That's true. she was in TNA, and then didn't she work in? No, she didn't work in Stardom.
No. All right, so the first quarter earnings call was also this week, and so I thought we might want to take a little peek into how TKO did.
Yeah, I'm fairly curious. I wonder if there was a net positive about the acquisition or not.
Yeah, so I think this was the second acquisition. They did. Let's see here. Where is it? Sorry, I'm looking at my iPad here.
You should have saved them on like a folder or something.
You know. We do what we do with these things.
Well, this is the first time that you've done it this way, so maybe we can do that next time.
So UFC had a record quarter of let's see here, 1.3 billion.
Oh my God.
That was just in the quarter. I think that was the.
You can read it,
Yeah, I know. It says here key highlights for 2023 as a whole. So 1.3 billion throughout the year.
Which is up 11%. That's crazy.
And then UFC live events revenue had a record 168 million in ticket sales and site fees.
Oh my God.
Let's see here. WWE premium live events set a viewership record, which increased the number of hours viewed on Peacock by 25% and 22% respectively. Just domestic, international. WWE live event average attendance increased 34%. We already know about the Netflix agreement, and the I know. I'm just looking at it. I want to do something very interesting. So, the TKO group did mention Vince McMahon because he is still a major stockholder.
Well, of course they had to. Because that was like one of the biggest things.
We have to presume that yes, it was Vince McMahon. There are no plans on buying out his stock as of right now.
There are no plans on buying out his stock.
There are no plans right now.
I wonder if they're going to wait until after the trial concludes to determine if they're really going to do that or not. Because I mean, right now it's been fairly silent with McMahon and that whole thing. Yeah. So maybe they're like, unless like a big development happens, there's not really much of an issue. And with the earnings, I'm sure they were looking at it very closely. And if everything's up, then what? And
they also did say something about the plan for Raw between the end of the USA Network deal and the beginning of the Netflix deal, and they said they're working with USA Network to extend it for another 3 months up until the January 2025.
Oh, there's no overlap.
No, there is no overlap. There's actually a gap because their deal ends, I think, in September of 2024, but the Netflix deal doesn't begin until January 2025.
That was not a good hindsight on their end.
Well, like I said, they are.
I can't imagine
working with the USA Network to extend it slightly, but I
can't imagine them having too much of an issue getting that set up. Like at all.
Right, even if it's just a temporary thing. Anyways, moving on. Sorry, there were a lot of numbers there. All right, so Nick Kinsky, let's see. I think I had something on him. Oh God, I can't remember where that was. I'm not doing well with this.
Yeah, well, this is why we save things.
So this is an interesting story. So he says that he was propositioned by the WWE.
Oh, that's where
90s.
This is. Yeah, this is the guy.
Yes.
So they propositioned him to do what?
As in they. Oh my God, this thing is just not cooperating with me, is it? So apparently, he said that he was coerced into performing certain acts for certain favors. And this was in the, so here it is. So Kinsky said that, and who is he referring to? He is referring to unwanted advances from WWF employee Terry Garvin.
So another ring boy thing.
Yes.
So how old was he when that happened?
Nick Kinsky.
I'm going to assume he was older. He wasn't a ring boy.
No, he was not. He was a wrestler at this point.
Okay.
But he was a younger wrestler. He just got split into the business at that point. So,
yeah. Well.
This is where he said that we're referencing Terry Garvin. He said that he would come up to me and hit me. I won't say what he said, but you'll understand the behind it. He says, "Hey Nick, let me perform oral sex on you. You can be Playboy and you can have it made for life." So yeah, and he was the boss, and Terry Garvin was the boss.
Yeah, that's why it was such a big thing. He and Pat Patterson were the ones who were wanting to diddle little kids.
He informed Vince McMahon of the situation, and Vince said, "Okay, I'll deal with it," and that was it.
I mean, they did deal. I mean, kind of. They kind of dealt with it.
Yeah, and Vince McMahon essentially took the side of Terry.
Well, of course he did.
But anyways, more of this shit's just coming out.
They hired them back.
Yeah. All right, so Tonga is going to the WWE. That's pretty much confirmed at this point.
And they had a match, and that's pretty much right now. We don't know when he's going to show up or how he's going to show up.
We don't know what the terms of the deal are or anything like that, but it's pretty much been confirmed at this point that Tonga is going to the WWE. So, Matt Riddle admitted to failing cocaine tests with the wellness program multiple times
in WWE. He
said that he failed multiple, and this was cocaine.
So, evidence, please, because I don't think WWE would be
Matt Riddle
keen on that. Yeah, but I can say that too. It doesn't mean squat.
Well, if he's the one that took it, I mean, he failed drug tests for cocaine in the WWE.
Okay, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm going to take his word like I would take anybody's word with an enormous grain of fucking salt.
But he's not talking about someone else with it. He's talking about himself.
Yeah, but I can say that, I take cocaine. I flew a dragon to work. Does that mean it was right?
No.
Yeah.
But he did go on the record saying that
let's have a disparaging comment with WWE, because right now that's the big thing to do within the wrestling community. So
I don't know what that meant as far as like how he was treated as a result of it, but he did admit to failing drug tests because of cocaine within the WWE.
And it just doesn't mean it's true. He just said it. He just blurted it out.
Yep. All right. So a former writer said that they were fired over their insistent that they change a promo that Vince approves because it was racially insensitive.
I can't remember what. Okay, they got away with so much dumb shit. Once again, enormous grain of salt, because it's fun and popular to bash everything WWE right now. And would it go by me for him to approve something like that?
I think the reason why this stuff is all of a sudden quote unquote coming out is because Vince McMahon is no longer in control in any capacity.
But it's a former writer. Riddle is a former wrestler. They are not under any sort of NDA or anything that I'm aware of.
But again, the reason is because Vince McMahon still held a truly unprecedented amount of power within the industry.
Okay, I mean, I can
so
kind
now
of
that he is out of the company, now that he's no longer a part of the board, people are now coming out and saying these things because he doesn't have that power.
I mean, it's not really affecting WWE literally in any capacity.
No, it's not.
Because it's not like, WWE were the ones doing it.
No,
it was Vince.
But this happened. So the incident happened in 2016 when he got fired as a result of trying to change the script in order to protect in order to make sure that what is being said is not racially insensitive.
Do we know what it was?
I do not know off the top of my head. I'm
kind of curious to see.
The segment involved Neville, Titus O'Neil, R-Truth, and Mark Henry. And the script called for Neville to speak up and tell everyone else that he's got a dream too, and that dream was to win the Royal Rumble. And Neville came up to him after he read it and said, "I cannot say this." Because he's referencing like Martin Luther.
I'm fully aware of who he's referencing, but I'm trying to understand how it's racially sensitive.
And here's the thing too, is that Neville was a heel at the time, and
that's
and if he didn't feel comfortable saying it, well, obviously Leonardi, who was the head writer at the time, said, "Okay, well, let me change it up," and Vince McMahon was not happy about that.
That's so odd.
Yeah,
so I don't understand how it's supposedly racially motivated. But if he was he was a heel in 2016, so that wouldn't make any sense for him to do that.
No, but what happened was Vince McMahon, who was obviously in the production truck at the time after the segment, it turns to the writer and says, "So you didn't give me what I wanted."
Oh, that's kind of weird.
I know.
Like I said, I wouldn't put it past Vince to be pissed off about something as like scrupulous as that. But they got away with a lot of racial shit. So I mean, like comparison to other things, like literally Vince McMahon calling somebody my N-word
Right.
on television,
and he was demoted, quote unquote, demoted as a result of it.
That's kind of weird.
So, anyways, yeah, more shit coming out. All right. So let's talk about what happened on SmackDown. If you watch SmackDown Live, there were a lot of parts that were blacked out. During the segment, there was a sign in the audience that said "Die Rocky Die," and that is the reason.
When I watched it, I saw that.
But this was during the live show. This was not during the replays or anything like that. Or if you watch it on some illegal site, wink, wink.
We all do it. Stop.
I know. But apparently during the live Fox run, it was blacked out every time that sign came up. So that was the reason for
like big parts of it being blocked out. I mean, that's odd, but sure, I guess.
I don't know who approved that sign to come in, but
our entire censorship thing is just going fucking out of control. You can't say kill or show kill or dead or murder. I'm like, these are very innocuous.
I think the reason that they do that, though, is not necessarily because of the actual live broadcast. I wonder if a lot of it has to do with like social media. So you couldn't do it on social media.
Oh, maybe.
All
right. I mean, I can kind of see. I think it's stupid still, but I can kind of understand why they did that. Like I said, I watched the whole segment. It was a 20 fucking minute segment, and I saw the sign multiple times.
Yeah. Rey Mysterio came back.
Woo!
So that means we'll probably have that long-awaited Rey Mysterio,
Santos Escobar. You have WrestleMania for it. I think that would be the best time to do that.
So, anyways, that was fun. All right, moving on. Tony Khan had a media call a couple of days ago.
It's a fucking disaster. Too.
And yes, it was a fucking disaster. But I wanted to talk about it.
It is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen come out of a person who supposedly is running the fucking company's mouth.
Right. So he trademarked AEW Dynasty as a potential name for a new pay-per-view. So I think they're going to start adding more pay-per-views.
I think he said like 9 to 12 or something like that, which is fine. I think they need more pay-per-views. He, for some reason, got permission from Martha Hart to do the harness thing with Sting on his final Dynamite, which is the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard ever. That's ridiculous.
But he said that
does she work for the fucking company?
You know, I don't know. She might. Meat Madness was put on ice because Miro and Keith Lee were not involved. And that's a whole another can of words with Miro, because Miro was injured in November and didn't start getting treatments until January for his injuries.
It's so weird. Why delay it that much?
I know. But anyways, that was the reason why it was canned.
You could have just done the three-way and it would have been fine.
He talked about Daniel Garcia for some reason he would be a great champion.
Because they're like fucking lovers. I'm convinced that they like sodomize each other and then dance.
I don't understand the appeal of Daniel Garcia.
I told you the appeal. I'm 100% convinced that they're lovers.
Wait, him and Tony?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. He's sitting there like, oh my god, he's a great champion. He's doing this. He's getting these title matches. Like everybody else is seeing the Daniel Garcia thing as cringy and horrible, but Tony's jerking off to it. I'm like, okay, either they are like the bestest of buddies, or they're butt buddies.
Right.
There's no in between. Tony Khan is buying his fucking friends.
Right.
And Daniel Garcia apparently is the one who gives the best fucking head.
Right.
At first it was Baker, but now since Baker is gone, maybe she's too toothy. I'm not sure.
Anyways, moving on. And finally, we got to talk about, a lot of Sting-related stuff has happened this week because, of course, Sting is retiring tonight.
Yes. Obviously, he's been wrestling since 1985.
Yeah.
Great career. I watched him first in TNA because that was my first true alternative.
Yep.
My first pay-per-view that I watched with TNA was him and Jarrett for the NWA title.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. But yeah, Sting has always been a big part of at least my alternative wrestling viewership. So Obviously, a great career for him.
Yeah, he's a first-rate Hall of Famer in any wrestling promotion. I'm sure WWE is going to be inducting him next year.
He is inducted in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's right. He is in the Hall of Fame. Duh.
Isn't he in the Pro Wrestling too?
I think so.
I know he's in the Wrestling Observer, but yeah, no, he's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
That's right. He retired. We retired once, and that was a thing.
Yes, that's why. So there you go.
Anyways, beyond that tangent, I think that's a lot of news for the week. Let's
this part's like 25 minutes. So.
Yeah, let's move on to what our topic is.
Yes.